Are you interested in equity research? Are you looking to build a career in this field? This is exactly what we're going to get into in this episode of the Zista Podcast. Welcome to the Zista Podcast, where we invite industry leaders and academicians to answer questions that students have within a specific subject area. And our focus area today is equity research. Joining me today is Jitendra Gohil. He's currently the director. He's a director and he's also the head of equity research and wealth management at Credit Suisse. He has over 20 years of experience, worked with some fantastic brands like the Bombay Stock Exchange, Bank of America, and Credit Suisse, and he is an absolute subject matter expert. He's quoted very often in some of the top business dailies, and he has appeared on television several times on ET Now and CNBC. So, welcome to the show, Jitu.
Hi, Amit. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Thank you for making time in your schedule. Really appreciate it. This is something I know you're deeply passionate about. You've built a successful career in this line, and I think there's no one better than you to guide students in this particular subject matter. So let me ask you this, a lot of students may be thinking about building a career in equity research. But the question is it lucrative? And what really is the potential in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would certainly. I think India is a growing economy. We are just $2,200 per capita and just close to 3 trillion economy. And in the next 10 years, if you're going to grow to 7 to 10 trillion economy, definitely equity as an asset class will attract a lot of money. Currently in India, most of the money is parked mainly in gold and in real estate. And I think the financialization of saving is a new theme. And it's still at a very nascent stage. We still are seeing significant number of accounts are being opened. So it's a structural theme, and I feel over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see dramatic improvement in the overall liquidity in the market. So if the equity market continues to grow, more and money flows into mutual funds in financial assets, then I think research, especially the equity research, we'll see a dramatic improvement in terms of career opportunities.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that. It does appear that yes, over the next 5 to 10 year horizon, there's definitely scope for growth. And I think the industry needs qualified professionals, people who know what they're doing, are passionate about the stock exchange, everything, all things equity. And yeah, the future is bright. But one thing that's on my mind and would also be on the mind of some students is, how is AI impacting this entire game? Will it eat up jobs? Will it, impact this line significantly? What's your view there?
See, I think AI is going to disrupt most of the industries, and we still don't know how it is going to impact equity research as such. But as an analyst, if I look at AI, I'm looking at companies that they are using AI and they are benefiting in terms of curtailing their cost. But if I look at equity stock market, definitely AI is going to be disruptor for traders. We have already seen that on a daily trading basis or option traders, large order execution. That side, I think AI has already started to disrupt to improve the execution capabilities and trading capabilities. But when it comes to research is a very specific subject where human mind is and human views are actually implemented. AI can disrupt over the next 5 to 10 years. We are not sure, but as of now, we haven't seen any major dent happening on the research platform. But some of the research analysts might want to use AI for their better functioning. And that's where I think it could be a kind of an enabler for research rather than a disruptor for research as a profile.
Interesting. I've been talking to people across different sectors and industries, and this is a theme that I see reoccurring, which is that AI is going to be an enabler. It's going to help us do our jobs better and not really take our job away. So what we do, we can actually do it better with AI tools, and there's no real reason for us to worry. And the space is evolving so fast, so it's really too premature to say with absolute confidence what will happen in the 10-year horizon. But definitely, you could expect algorithms to play a role in doing a lot of analysis. But at the end of the day, this is a lucrative job, needs qualified professionals, and this is something that students should definitely be looking at. So, what I wanted to ask you, Jitendra, is to also cover a little bit about the roles and career paths that students can explore in equity research.
So, Amir, I think let me just explain you what exactly the equity research is and what are the other research profile which are associated with equity research. Right?
Sure.
So let me focus on, let's say, equity research. Now, equity research is nothing but valuing a company and giving a price target, doing all the top-down industry analysis, and then looking at the potential of a company and whether that will be a good investment from a 3 months perspective to almost 3 year or 10-year perspective, right? So there are different types of research that and different types of investors are there, and they do their own research. But as an equity research professional, in a very narrow sense, it's something to do with valuations, right? So one has to be very, very sure about the cash flow analysis and how to value a company. The second aspect of equity research is that, look, you have done your research and now you also want to know where the macroeconomic fundamentals are moving. So you know the company, but sometimes companies are also their operating performance is also impacted by macro. So other part of research could be, let's say, macro research analyst, where the economics degree or probably a person who understands economic fundamentals are mostly preferred. So one is equity research, but that also needs to be looked at from a macro perspective, and hence some of the economist or economic research team that also comes into a research perspective. The third angle is that you have done all the research, but let's say you are in a mutual fund, and the fund wants to buy some good let's say a FMCG company. Now there are 10 to 20 companies. Now which stocks to pick? So this is called as a buy side research, where he will actually evaluate all the research houses. They come out with their own research note, and the buy side analyst will probably pick one or two companies out of these companies. So it's a sell side research which does very in-depth analysis, but the buy side research will read those research reports, do his own analysis, and buy stock. So that's called a buy side research. Now coming the other diluted form of research, I would say that there is derivatives research which might pick up. There is a technical analysis research where you look at charts and graphs and not doing any fundamental, but looking at graphs, charts, the volume projections, and how the price movement is, and you come out with your research on the technical side. So it's a vast subject, right? From macro research to company specific research, fundamental research, technical research, and lastly, not to forget, a strategist, right? So strategist's role is whether I want to buy let's say IT sector today, or whether I want to buy a banking sector, right? So he will evaluate they will evaluate the entire parameters, right, from earnings to macro backdrop valuations, and then the strategies will say that, okay, I favor this sector over other sector. So it's an evolving sector, but a person wants to start. He starts as a data miner, right? He starts with a kind of analyst who crunch data, whether it's a macro research. So example is fiscal deficits or revenue projections of the government. And if you are at a very entry level equity research, probably you will have to do a lot of modeling in Excel, right? So you have to build models from scratch, and then slowly as you grow, you move from a company research analyst to a sector analyst to a kind of a strategist overall head of research. So it's an evolving process. Now in this entire research field where you fit in, that's a evolving path, and that the student has to decide.
Right. So it's good to have an end goal in mind, but also remember that you need to start with the basics, work your way up. And I would imagine it involves a lot of understanding of balance sheets, reading between the lines, I would say, doing a lot of reading and being passionate about this, right? Because if you don't have passion, how do you keep going? I mean, when I look at you, you've built such a successful career in this line. And I'm sure in the course of your career, you would have faced your own challenges, you would have faced your own frustrations, if I can say. And I wanted to ask you, how did you keep yourself going?
I think very interesting question. So first is the passion, because this field is actually going to take at least 10 to 12 hours a day in the initial basis, right? So research analyst, mind has to be always on, running, right? So basically, right from what is happening around you, political, analysis, then macro analysis to sector analysis to stock analysis. There's a lot of input which comes to you, and then you have to crunch these numbers and then form your opinion. So initially it was very challenging, but unless you have passion, I would say this sector needs a lot of patience and a passion. So if you really want to get into this field, you have to be really passionate about economics. You have to be really passionate about reading. You have to really give time to be a good analyst. It's not a kind of a year or 2 year. It need at least 5 to 7 years of uh, you know, toiling to come to this level of analysis. Since you have spoken about my career, I think almost 20 years I've been in this field. Initially, I started my career as a sales or relationship manager, right? But then I got attracted towards the field of research. I like to read about companies, take calls on markets. So I thought, let me do my CFA, and I completed my CFA. And slowly, I started, in an outsourcing division, just to start as a modeler, just build models for the companies, then value, and then started to write reports. And today, where I am, so it's a journey. One has to be really, really passionate about stock markets, economy, macro, even politics. And the new field which is coming is forensic now, because a lot of management say something, and what happens to the stock price, we know. So it's a fiduciary responsibility also to do all your due diligence. So that is also very important. So I think it's a very patient kind of a journey, but it's rewarding at the end.
All right. So it may be hard work, but it's rewarding. And if it's something that you enjoy, I'm sure it'll flow a lot easier, right? And I think you did a good job in trying to cover the different facets that are there. So when you think of equity research, one would imagine that you're just studying a specific script or a specific stock. But as you rightfully explained, there's so much more to it, right? From macro to sector specific research to studying different stocks, and also looking at the larger picture, connecting the lines, all really interesting stuff. I wanted to ask you a question. Uh, you, let's say you start your career in equity research, and a couple of years later, you feel that you want to explore other options. Is it that once you've committed equity research, you should only stick in that line? Or do you feel that once you've started with equity research, you could also explore related, areas? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a progress. I think the field is so vast that, let's say if I just cover cement sector,
Okay.
for 3 years, 4 years, and then I can easily move to infrastructure. Obviously, the fundamentals are very different, but these are all related sectors. And the housing or real estate, I can start covering. Right. So slowly and gradually, the person who covers one sector may start to take additional responsibility as he becomes, more comfortable, and he becomes more, faster in his analysis. Right. The other thing is that if you are on the sell side, which writes really long reports and does a lot of in-depth analysis, after that you feel, 10 years, 15 years down the line, I want to move to the buy side research. Right. So you can actually move to the buy side research, which is nothing but, let's say, a long short fund, or any mutual fund. And now a lot of PE investors, they are looking out for an analyst who has 15 years of experience, let's say in pharma or defense, like a drone startup investor wants to know what is happening in the defense sector. So a person who has been covering, let's say, capital goods defense for the past 15 years will be the preferred person. So all the PE investors may start to look at these investors. Then you also have the investment banking. Right? It's a private side, but let's say if a company wants to come out with an IPO, right? So it's a different investment banking kind of a research. So it's a vast field where a sell side analyst may move to a buy side analyst. Moving from a research house to a a mutual fund house, right? Moving from a research house to a PE fund, right? So definitely, if you are getting bored with doing what you do, you can obviously move to different side of the business.
All right. I think that's pretty interesting. And now I think if I can go back in life, I would maybe consider equity research because it's a lucrative career and it's vast in itself. There are different areas within that. And if I don't think I'm making it in a particular part of it, I could actually switch lines and explore other lines which are related. It's not that my effort, my time, my skills have gone waste. In fact, I can redeploy them and utilize them to do something related. So let me ask you, coming back into equity research, what are some of the courses? I mean, in terms of a qualification, what does a student need? Are there any resources they can refer to if they want to succeed in this line?
See, the basic, understanding of financial statement analysis. Right? So a person who wants to get into this field should be well versed with accounting. How the balance sheets to be, like balance sheets or income statements. We see that non-finance people like IITs are also in this field. So if you can just have a kind of a logical analysis of balance sheet and cash flows, I think that should be the starting. Second thing would be you should be able to write well, right? So research report writing is also an art and skill, but I think you will develop over a period of time. Writing comes little later in the career, like after you started understanding the basic modeling of financial modeling. Then you come out with a target. You think that this stock is overvalued, undervalued, but communicate that view to your audience in a best possible manner. That is also very important. So some of the successful research analysts are not just a person who gives good buy sell targets, but also who can communicate and present their views. Because people interact with you, they have less time. In that small amount that you spend with them, you should be able to communicate very confidently and very with all the analysis and data. So I would say these are the things that is needed. So basically, which field, probably it's a CA or an MBA in specializing in finance, or you can say CFA, which is
Right.
really. I think that is going to lift your career if you have these kind of degrees.
Right. You personally, you finished an MBA in finance and you went on to do your CFA as well, right? So that's a double qualification that you have in that case, right? But I think you were really passionate. You want to kind of augment your knowledge, your skills, and I think that's what drove you. So I think it's not just enough doing something. I think people who are successful, if you see, they have this ability to go back to the drawing board, become a student all over again, have that learning mindset, and constantly keep learning. Right. As a director, I'm sure you're managing a team, and many a times when you're interacting with younger people in your organization, there's a little bit of learning that happens even from the new people who join. So that's really interesting. But I've really enjoyed this conversation, Jitendra. Thank you so much for making time in your day, walking us through these details. And when you were speaking, one thing I noticed is that you were just it was just flowed so effortlessly. It's only because you're so passionate about this. It's something that you do well, and it kind of shows. So I've actually tuned to some of your commentaries on ET now, and it's wonderful to see you on live television as well. So just keep up the good work, and I think you're doing a fab job in that regard.
Thank you, Amit. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate students listening to this. And if this is helpful, then I'll be very happy.
Absolutely, that really is the intent. To help students who may be wondering, shouldn't I, what's in this line? I want to learn a little bit more, and that's what the podcast is actually doing. So, thanks once again. I hope you enjoyed this show. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and if you prefer to catch the audio podcast, you can catch it on Google, Spotify, or Apple. Our handle is the Zista Podcast. Till we meet again, I'd say stay curious.